Good evening. Welcome to the big story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Pauline Verzosa.
Tonight's big stories. Senator Amy Marcos distances herself from her brother's senatorial slate. She says she wants to stand alone and will run as an independent candidate next year.
And it's shaping up to be a showdown in Manila. Re-electionist Mayor Lacuna says she feels betrayed that her predecessor and ally, former Manila City Mayor Isko Moreno, will likely challenge her for the mayoralty.
And various government agencies are looking to investigate the claims of a self-confessed Chinese spy in an Al Jazeera documentary saying that Alice Guo is herself a Chinese informant.
It was just 3 days ago and the administration rolled out a full senatorial slate for 2025, unifying 5 political parties in one banner under the Alliance for a New Philippines.
And one of the chosen 12 was the president's sister, Senator Amy Marcos. But in an unexpected turn of events, the lawmaker said, no, thank you. She'd prefer to run as an independent.
Now, Senator Marcos also addressed criticism that she was quote-unquote namamangka sa dalawang ilog. Maricel Halili has the big story tonight.
Siya ay walang iba kundi ang aking kapatid, ang aking atay, si Manang Amy.
Senator Amy Marcos's absence at the launch of the administration's senatorial slate on September 27 could have been a foreshadowing. Over the weekend, she withdrew from the ticket being endorsed by the government.
Minabuti kong manindigan ng mag-isa upang wag nang malagay sa alanganin ang aking ading. Para wag nang mag-alinlangan ang aking mga tunay at minamahal na kaibigan. Pinipili ko na lamang manatiling malaya at tapat, hindi sa isang grupo, kundi sa bawat Pilipino.
In a Facebook post, she thanked the president for coming to her defense amid criticism and said she is running as an independent so as not to put her younger brother in a bind. On Monday, she explained further.
Maraming nagsasabi noon na ako'y namamangka sa dalawang ilog. Ang ninanais ko ay ako ang daan kung saan magtatagpo ang lahat ng ilog. Tangway, ika nga sa atin. It's a tremendous sacrifice to stand alone. But I need to be free to cross the line, to talk to all parties, and to get things done. Unity was a dream that I shared in 2022, and I hold fast to that dream of unity for all Filipinos.
It was political analyst Ronald Llamas who first used the phrase namamangka sa dalawang ilog to describe the senator on interviews on One News. Senator Marcos is a member of the Nacionalista Party. NP is one of the 5 political parties now in a coalition under the banner of the President's Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas. But Amy is also allied with the Dutertes, who, as we know, had a very public falling out with the administration.
Malaking konsiderasyon yung sitwasyon ko. Yun talaga ang pinakamahalaga. Kung may dalawa kang malapit na kaibigan at sila'y nag-aaway, kakampihan mo ba yung isa laban sa isa? Siyempre, ang gusto mong mangyari, pagbatiin sila, magkausap sila, at ikaw na ang magiging daan para doon. At kung hindi pa sila handa na magkaisa, mag-iintay ka muna sa tabi. Hindi ka papanig dun sa isa at ayaw na ayaw mo na magkaroon ng alitan yung mga kaibigan mo.
Recall that just 2 weeks ago, Vice President Sara Duterte said she was never friends with President Marcos and that it was Senator Amy that she has known and had been friends with since 2012. In response, President Marcos said his sister's decision is understandable.
That's fine. That happens. I've run as an independent myself many times. And so that is her choice. I suppose it gives her a little bit more scope and freedom to make her own schedule and to campaign in the way that she would like to do. The Allianza is still behind her. We are still continuing to support her. And if down the road she chooses to join us in our campaign sorties, she is of course very welcome.
Meantime, President Marcos says he has found a replacement for Interior Secretary Benher Abalos, who's also running for the Senate under the administration ticket. He will make the announcement as soon as Abalos files his certificate of candidacy between October 1 and 8. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
Former Senator Panfilo Ping Lacson is also taking another crack at the Senate. He talked to our sister program, Ted Filon sa Radyo 5 earlier today about what convinced him to run again.
1 to 2 years after noong June 30, 2022, yung paglabas ko sa gobyerno, talagang ang pakiramdam ko, mas magaang yung pakiramdam, mas magaang magkarga ng apo kaysa magpasa ng mundo. Pero kinalaunan, after mga 1.5 years, 2 years, parang ang pakiramdam ko naman, parang nawawalan ng kabuluhan yung buhay. Tutuldukan ko na ba talaga yung kasaysayan ko?
When he files his certificate of candidacy on Wednesday, October 2, Lacson will be doing so as an independent senatorial aspirant. That's even though he is officially part of the 12-person slate of President Marcos's Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas. Lacson, who was in the top 6 of Octa Research's most recent senatorial preferences survey, believes that he can still be a fiscalizer while bannering the administration ticket. And if given another opportunity, he vows to scrutinize, among other things, the national budget, as he was known to do during his time.
Hanggang ngayon, nakakakuha pa rin ng feedback tungkol sa kalakaran sa national budget. At noong 2003, nabanggit ko na rin ito, nagkaroon ng mga issue tungkol sa double appropriations, triple, quadruple, hanggang quintuple appropriations. Doon ko parang tumatak sa isip ko na siguro kung nandun ako sa Senate, malamang sa hindi, nakita ko yun. At siguro naman, maski pa paano, nakagawa ako ng paraan para maawat yun.
He remains very popular. Top 6 latest survey ng Octa Research. Former Senator Lacson was, of course, there during the formal announcement of the Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas at the PICC, but he is technically not part of any political party.
But he is a guest candidate of the Nationalist People's Coalition, and he ran as an independent in 2022.
So he's pretty consistent running as an independent in all the national elections.
Well, the local political races are also heating up. In Davao City, the bailiwick of the Dutertes, Bishop Rod Cubos, founder of religious group Christ the Healer, is being urged to run for mayor. Last Saturday, his supporters held a prayer rally to convince him to run. If the bishop heeds the challenge, he might be up against any of the Dutertes or Nograleses, though the two families have not formally announced yet if they're running for the mayoral seat. Meanwhile, Dr. Willie Ong also announced that he will run for senator. Ong went viral recently after revealing he has a large sarcoma or cancer in his abdomen and that he is in the midst of treatment in Singapore.
In the city of Manila, incumbent Mayor Hani Lacuna is all set to file her candidacy for re-election on October 3, Thursday. But complicating matters a little bit is the fact that she will likely go head-to-head with her predecessor, former Mayor Isko Moreno. Moreno had served as city mayor for just one term before running and losing in the 2022 presidential elections. In addition, it was Lacuna's father, former Manila Vice Mayor Danny Lacuna, who had mentored Moreno. Mayor Hani told our sister program Sa Totoo Lang this afternoon that she felt betrayed by Isko's decision to run since they had clearly agreed he was going to retire from politics if he lost in 2022.
I feel betrayed because nung siya naman po ay namaalam at tumakbong presidente, very clear po sa amin, sa partido po namin, na kapag hindi po siya sinwerte, ay hindi na po, magre-retire na daw po siya. At in several occasions po na magkakasama po kami, ay lagi po niyang sinasabi yon, assuring everyone na he is already retired in the field of politics at hindi ho kami magiging magkalaban kahit kailan. Kasi very clear po talaga yun eh. In fact, yung bago po siya umalis ng Maynila, ay pinagbilinan pa po niya kami ni Vice Mayor Yul Servo. Klaro po sa amin ni Vice Mayor Yul Servo po na magre-retire na po siya. In fact, nabanggit po niya na he would venture into teaching. At alam naman po natin na nagbalik showbiz po siya.
Mayor Lacuna has vowed to pursue programs on health, livelihood, and infrastructure. She is running under Ascenso Manileño, the city's dominant local political party, alongside fellow re-electionist Vice Mayor Yul Servo. Manny Lopez will be the party's candidate for Congressman of Manila's 1st District. Other representatives in the Lacuna Servo ticket, all seeking re-election, are current committee chairpersons of the lower house. There are 5 of them. These are Congressman Rolando Valeriano, Joel Chua, Edward Maceda, Erwin Tieng, and Benny Abante. Mayor Honey says all the congressmen have vowed to deliver votes within their districts.
Ay, opo. More than 100% full support pang ating po mga kongresista. In fact, yung isa po nating kongresista sa District 1 ay dati rin pong kongresista natin po. Kambaking lang po siya ngayon. Babalik po siya. Opo.
There is a slight disclaimer to that story because former City Mayor Isko Moreno has not officially declared his candidacy. As far as we know, there are plenty of signs, yes, but he has not officially said so.
Marami ng mga parinig.
And on posts on social media, but he did, he is expected to run alongside Chi Atienza Valdepeñas, who has confirmed to our reporter that they will file their COCs together. I'm just not sure what date. But yun nga. And also there was a photo that circulated of him holding up the arm of former Palace spokesperson Mocha Uson,
who is said to be running under his slate.
With the hashtag Yorme's Choice, right?
Ayun.
Yorme's Mayor Isko Moreno. Moreno is, of course, the president of Acción Democrático, and he was the one who administered the oath of Atienza Valdepeñas and also Mocha Uson as members of the party.
Si Chi Atienza naman is the daughter of former Mayor Lito Atienza, long-term mayor of the city of Manila.
Deep roots in Manila as well. So that's going to be an interesting city to watch out for.
Pero bukod doon, speaking of mayroon na rin sa ibang mga cities because we talked about Manila. Pero yung isa pa kanina, si Lino Cayetano, nag-declared that over the weekend that he's not going to run for mayor of Taguig. He is not closing his doors on running for another position though.
At do we know what position?
Hindi pa. Meron tayong mga naririnig pero di pa natin ako-confirm.
Hindi pa official.
Tapos meron din si Luis Manzano.
Just today.
Vice Governor
ng
ng Batangas.
Ng Batangas.
And his half-brother.
And his mom.
And his mom. So,
I wonder if he is vice governor, does that mean retirement from show business? That's another.
Some of them kind of still do it on the side. I mean, didn't Senator Bong Revilla
Senator Tulfo also has his program.
Well, he has his program, Senator Bong Revilla. Did he have a film recently?
Pero mayroon siyang show ngayon, yung Rainbow Rumble.
Okay.
Ang tanong natin mamaya kay Comelec Chairman George Garcia kung he has to quit that show during the campaign period, right?
Well, same for the other ones who have shows on the side while sitting public officials, right? But a lot of these cities will be interesting to watch because they're clash of the families, basically, right?
Well, that is the story of Philippine politics right there. And one other thing to watch out for, the Department of Information and Communications Technology Undersecretary Jeffrey E&D says they have monitored a rise in artificial intelligence content being used to spread misinformation and disinformation. Among these AI-generated content are deepfakes or manipulated videos and audio that mimic real personalities. There's also vishing or voice phishing, where someone calls a user copying the voice of a person. The DICT is urging the public and political parties to report to the Comelec if they see AI-generated posts that are misleading or fake. It says it is also working with social media platforms on proper labeling.
What sets this election apart is that this is going to be an election that's heavily digitalized. And I think our regulations have not yet adapted to that. What we are actually want the social media networks to do is to label them. This is misleading. This is AI generated. This is taken out of context. Yung mga ganong klase ng labeling would help our people in assessing if this information is correct or not.
We're going to be taking a quick break, but up next, we'll be speaking to Comelec Chairman George Garcia about the last-minute preparations for the filing of certificates of candidacies tomorrow. All that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're watching the big story here on One News.
An explosive Al Jazeera documentary has got everyone asking, is Alice Guo a Chinese spy? Well, various agencies, including the Department of Defense, now want to investigate her further. Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro says one thing is clear, she's not Filipino and she's a co-conspirator in a massive crime enterprise. Brian Casillo has a story.
郭海婷跟我是不可信的，我们两个你看一下，曾经都为这个国安部卖命，你看看我的下场。
In a documentary released last week by the international news agency Al Jazeera, self-confessed Chinese spy She Zhejiang directly identified disgraced Bamban-Tarlac Mayor Alice Guo as another spy for China, just like him. Because of that revelation, the Department of National Defense now wants to investigate Guo deeper to find out if she's indeed a Chinese spy. According to Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro, they cannot confirm yet if the allegations against Guo are true.
What is clear is that she is not a Filipino. Secondly, she falsified documents to pretend that she's a Filipino. And thirdly, she was an active co-conspirator to a massive illegal criminal enterprise.
Whether this is proven true or not, Teodoro says she still has to be held accountable for the many illegal activities she's been linked to, such as passport fraud.
She is a facilitator and a participant to an illegal criminal enterprise. Being a Chinese national and engaged in such kind of activities in this country, it still damages this country whether or not it is espionage, right? We see a pattern of these kinds of activities throughout the Philippines.
The documentary was shown during the hearing of the House Squad Committee last Friday. Guo, who's normally very placid during the hearings, lost her composure and vehemently denied the allegations.
Definitely, hindi po ako spy. Okay. Relax ka lang. Bakit ka galit? Kasi po, ganun din po yung nangyari last time. Sinasabi po nila spy ako. Mahal ko pong Pilipinas, Filipino po ako, hindi po ako spy.
Lawmakers believe that they struck a nerve with Guo's sudden change in reaction.
Parang initial reaction yun ng isang taong nabuking. So klarong-klaro na hindi niya inaakala na merong ganun, no? Na mula sa Al Jazeera yung information. I heard that ang sabi ng kanyang mga abogado, maaari daw po itong artificial intelligence. Ewan ko lamang, kaya nga nabanggit ko kanina na dapat siguro mas malalim pang investigation ang dapat gawin.
I think we touched something which is very sensitive. So dalawang bagay yan. It's either because nagagalit na basta because he hates being charged or suspected as spy, or nagagalit basta dahil unti-unting lumalabas yung katotohanan na Chinese spy siya.
According to National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya, the information released by She Zhejiang in the Al Jazeera documentary needs to be thoroughly examined and validated.
We will have to consult with our partner intelligence agencies abroad para mapagtagpi-tagpi natin, para malaman natin ang tunay na dahilan at tunay na personality ni Alice Guo, if he is really an agent of the MSS of the PRC.
But if it is indeed proven that Guo is indeed a spy,
malaking implication ito, no? Because ibig sabihin ay may ganitong mga nangyayaring operasyon ang PRC dito sa ating bansa na meron mga ginagamit silang mga tao para mahalal sa mga posisyon.
Espionage refers to the act of spying to gather information about a government or a military. But here in the Philippines, the last law holding spies accountable was passed back in 1941. That's why the DND chief is urging lawmakers to amend Commonwealth Act 616 or the espionage law.
Ang mahalaga ngayon, parusahan natin ang espionage sa panahon ng peace. Kasi ang espionage law sa Pilipinas ay epektibo lamang during times of war.
Teodoro also criticized the Pogo hubs springing up near our military bases. For instance, the Bamban Pogo hub is just a few kilometers away from Camp O'Donnell in Capas Tarlac, home of the Philippine Army's Training and Doctrine Command, or TRADOC.
It is curious that a 32-building complex was operating within 2 minutes flying time away from the TRADOC and the Light Armored Division. And, all the authorities should have been aware of this at that time, particularly the local authorities.
Teodoro continued to appeal to LGUs to be cautious about allowing foreign businesses to operate, as they could potentially pose a threat to national security. For News 5, Brian Castillo, we are One News.
Well, it's a very busy day ahead for the Commission on Elections, or Comelec, as the election season officially kicks off tomorrow with the filing of COCs. Let's talk about this further with Chairman, Comelec Chair George Garcia, who we're honored to have with us in the studio tonight. Thank you so much for taking time out. I mean, on the eve, on the eve of the opening of the filing of COCs. Chair, there's so much to talk about, but let's kick off from that last story about Alice Guo. Of course, you've had to answer this a number of times, but the question there remains, how in the world did Alice Guo become a mayor in the Philippines?
Well, because under the decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Serafica versus the Commission election, the Supreme Court said that the duty of the Comelec is purely ministerial in accepting the certificates of candidacy. We cannot refuse. We do not have the discretion as to whether to accept or not to accept the certificates of candidacy. So long as the certificates are in proper form, it is duly notarized with the documentary stamp and signed by the filer or by the aspirant, then we will have to accept the certificate of candidacy. And if it has the so-called certificate of nomination and acceptance, we have to accept the certificates of candidacy. As to whether the name of the candidate will be included in the ballot, that is a different question altogether. We have to accept, but there is no duty on the part of the Comelec to immediately include the name of the candidate in the ballots. If somebody will file a petition to cancel or deny due course the candidacy, then we can cancel the candidacy if proven to be right, the petition, or we can motu proprio cancel the candidacy if the person is a nuisance candidate. Only in the case where the person is a nuisance candidate. But in the case where a person's qualification as to age, citizenship, residency, registration as a voter, and literacy is being questioned, then there should be a registered voter that must be filing a petition, not for the Comelec to motu proprio cancel the candidacy.
So, question po na the fact that, from what we understand, she also only registered as a voter in April 2021, about 6 months before she actually filed her candidacy. That in itself is also not a red flag?
That is not a red flag, because under the under Republic Act 8189, in Section 9, which is actually the continuing registration law, to be a registered voter, you must have 6 months residency before the election. So before the election,
she fulfilled that, kahit sakto.
Yes, before the election is actually, if you're going to run in 2025, that's November of 2024. In the case of Mayor Gu, she applied for registration in April of 2021, as you correctly pointed out. And nobody questioned, nobody opposed, nobody filed a petition against the application, and hence, her application was approved by the Election Registration Board of Banban. Now, here comes October of 2021. So if she was able to register by April, take note that it's more than 1 year and 1 month before the election of 2022 of May. In October 2021, Alice Gu filed a petition, a certificate of candidacy for the position of Mayor of Bamban Tarlac. Nobody questioned, nobody filed a petition, nobody opposed the candidacy of Alice Gu. That's why she was able to run.
Pero sa kaso pong ito, siya po ay natural born, tama po ba? Doon sa kanyang dokumento na hawak? Because local officials are allowed to be both naturalized and natural born.
If nobody will be filing a petition to question the candidacy of somebody or to cancel the candidacy of somebody, then we will be presuming under the law that that person is actually a citizen of the Philippines.
Pero ngayon po may complaint petition to cancel her birth certificate, may deadline po ba ang Department of Justice to decide on that? Pag nag-file si Alice Go ng kanyang COC.
I think that the petition to cancel the birth certificate was actually filed before the regional trial court. As far as the Comelec is concerned, until and unless there is a final judgment as regards the criminal case or even the administrative case, then this is very clear. We will have to accept the certificate of candidacy of anybody, But as to whether the name will be included in the ballots, that's a different, again, question. In the case of the personality that you are mentioning, there are certain issues such as the Ombudsman's decision, which will be considered by the Commission on Elections. And in response to the Bamban-Tarlac incident of 2022, that's why somebody was able to run with questionable nationality, the Comelec cannot do anything unless and until the law is amended. We will have to wait for the legislation. We cannot add documents to what is being required by the law. It needs legislation. Now, what the Comelec did actually is, in order to prevent that kind of situation, at least sa level lang po namin, we decided to include in the rules that we will publish all the certificates of candidacy of candidates.
So that is where that came from?
Yes. We will be filing the certificates of candidacy of all the candidates nationwide for the first time. So if there are 500,000 candidates nationwide, you're going to see that in our website.
Ipapublish po yun lahat?
Yes po. And
including having their addresses there?
Yes, because the address is very important. It's required under Section 74 of the Omnibus Election Code. How can you prove that that person has been a resident of the place for at least 1 year immediately preceding the day of the election if we are not going to include the date, the address? And so, for the people, the voters, to be able to fully know well the candidate, then that the people must be apprised of who these candidates are. And the only way to do that is to publish the certificates of candidacy for the first time. But we are going to redact certain informations which are not necessary for purposes of filing.
Because there's also the privacy law.
Yes, for example, the email address. That's not even required under the law. But we require the inclusion of the email address so that in case of notices to be sent to the candidates, then it will be very easy instead of sending it through courier or through...
And how many days do people have to protest any kind of information that is on the COC?
If a person's candidacy is to be questioned based on material misrepresentation in the certificate of candidacy, age, citizenship, residency, registration as a voter, and literacy, you have 5 days, but not more than 25 days from the date of the filing of the candidacy. And we are going to release the certificates of candidacy of all candidates in less than 2 weeks, so that's more or less 10 to 14 days only. So during that period, the people will know practically who are their candidates, the background of their candidates.
Saan po ito ipopost?
Sa Comelec website. Sa Comelec website po, we will going to do that for the first time. So if candidates would like to question that effort on the part of the Commission, then they are free to go to the Supreme Court and question. But we are going to do that not only under the principle of transparency, but because we would like the people to know who their candidates are. Para hindi naman sila nagugulat na lang somebody will be running who is not a Filipino citizen, somebody who is running who is not even a resident of the place, a complete stranger, or not even
this
of
is the
legal
first
age.
time that we're doing this way. Before, it used to be posted.
Before, when you file your candidacy, nobody will know the contents of your certificates of candidacy. And in fact, if somebody would like to file a petition to question the candidacy of a candidate, you will have to get a copy from the Commission on Election, a copy of the COC. Sometimes it's very difficult to get because our election officers will always invoke data privacy.
Yes, correct.
But now,
there's also that law.
But now we included it in the present rules.
All the way down to councillors, though,
Yes, ma'am. So we included in our rules that if you are going to get the COC coming from the website and use that in the petition, that will be a valid document for purposes of completing the petition.
Let's talk about, since we're already talking about COCs, let's talk about preparations for the big midterm elections next year. 66 million registered voters is the last count we have.
So far, as of July 15, 66 million, but our projection actually is supposed to be 70 million, but we may have more or less roughly 68 million voters. The reason is because we discovered that there were about 5.37 million who were deactivated voters because they failed to vote in 2 consecutive elections. Under the law, failure to vote in 2 consecutive elections would mean deactivation of your voter registration. And if you want to vote, then you should reactivate yourself as a voter. but 5.37 failed to reactivate. But we found out again that there were about 600,000, more or less, up to July 15, who were able to reactivate the registration. So meron pa tayong mga more or less po 5 million pa rin na deactivated voters, and that will greatly reduce the number of voters. Tumaas na nga eh. Ngayon nga po, 3.4 million voters, more or less new voters, ang nagpa-register since February 12 up to July 15. But because of the 5.37, that will practically reduce the number of voters. So more or less 68 million.
More or less 68, and that's the highest ever.
That's the highest ever. Before, it's about 64 million only. So kung may 68 ka, more or less may 4 million. And we take note that we also have voters abroad. We have overseas voters, which is more or less 1,180,000.
Dahil po ba yan sa population growth, or is it reflective of how people are excited for the upcoming
The excitement is actually usually during the presidential and vice presidential election.
So parang wala naman pong sinasabi itong sinabi niyo 68 million.
Wala naman po. Yung pong 2022 elections, we have more or less 83.5% voters turnout, the highest in the history of our country's election. But for a midterm election, the average is more or less 60 to 65% only.
Okay, Chairman, since we're on the topic of voters, voter registration ended today, September 30, but will it be extended in some areas? I know in northern Luzon, naapektuhan po sila ng Typhoon Julian. So
we were informed by some of our regional offices that they intended earlier to postpone and cancel and reset to another date the registration. But however, they said that they honestly believe that the number of voters, prospective voters who will be registering is not that many anymore, because even last Saturday, not very many were able to apply for registration. So they decided to proceed with the registration. And in Batanes only, there was this effort to suspend the voters' registration. But we were informed lately that they proceeded likewise. So more or less, the registration in the entire country proceeded and ended today. And therefore, there will be no more and no extension of registration to any parts of the country.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask in relation to the number of voters that you're tracking. I wonder if you have any data on the number of candidates naman, in terms of the candidates. It strikes me as parang ang daming dynastic candidates this time around. Or is it the same? Roughly the same?
The number of positions actually up for grab in the 2025 election is actually 18,280 positions. In 18,280 positions, you will have more or less 500,000 candidates nationwide for the different positions. Sa senators nga lang po, the average usually is about 60 to 70 candidates for 12 slots for the senators. But how about more the party list? You have more or less 162 party list organizations that will be grabbing for only one slot so that they can get to 2%. So when it comes to relationships, indeed, because we do not have yet the anti-political dynasty law in the country, they had been attempting to pass that kind of legislation, but they, unfortunately, until today, no such
it's
law.
Languishing in Congress.
But in the Bangsamoro, they have attempted. They actually now have in the election code of the Bangsamoro, just recently passed, a provision which ban or which will prohibit the relationship of until the second degree of consanguinity and affinity in the members of the parliament.
That's in effect.
That's in effect right now.
So we don't know if there are more families running in next year's election than previous years.
Yes.
We don't have that kind of data yet.
Surely it will always increase as we go on with our elections. Surely the numbers should always be doubled, in fact, this election or even by the next election.
There are calls to suspend the BARMM parliamentary elections because Sulu effectively declared that it is not part of BARMM. Ano po mangyayari sa Sulu? Meron po bang changes in that area?
We would like to readily admit that we were so kulat po kami because of the decision of the Supreme Court. Hindi namin in-expect yun. So we had the entire day thinking it over. We were so puzzled, what are we going to do? And until we decided we will proceed with the election, simply because that is our mandate to conduct and administer election. And number two, that's our commitment under the peace process. And therefore, the Commission will proceed with the election. We are going to deduct the number of seats allocated for Sulu, which is actually 7 members of the parliament. supposedly there will be 80 members of the parliament in the Bangsamoro, but because of the 7 of representatives from
73
Sulu,
na lang.
73 na lang po. And the question is, that's the legal question is, can we proceed with 73 despite the law providing for 80? But our conclusion is, of course, yes. We are not mandated to fill up the entire 80, but we have to proceed with the 73 because at least all the provinces remaining in the Bangsamoro are still properly represented.
But in Sulu, the normal, regular local
in Sulu they
elections
will have,
continue.
Yes, ma'am. They will have to elect for their Senate governor, vice governor, Sangguniang Panlalawigan, mayor, vice mayor, and Sangguniang Bayan. And therefore, the filing of the candidacies for these positions in Sulu will also be by October 1, tomorrow up to October 8. But in Sulu, in the Bangsamoro, we decided to reset the filing of the candidacy from October 1 to 8 to November 4 to 9. In order to give the proper transition in view of that decision in
Okay,
Sulu.
punta naman po tayo sa EMBOs. What is the decision there? What has been decided on and what are we waiting for?
We have to understand that the 10 barangays originally are from
Makati.
And according to the Supreme Court, they rightfully belongs to Taguig. The Comelec in the barangay and SK elections, we transferred all the records of voters of the 10 barangays from Makati to Taguig, and therefore they were able to vote as residents voters of Taguig already. But in February of 2024, we issued a resolution saying that the voters of the 10 barangays can vote for senators, party list, mayor, vice mayor, sangguniang panlungsod. Although at that time we have no ordinance yet from Taguig saying that indeed the people of the 10 barangays can vote for Sangguniang Panlungsod. Lo and behold, 2 weeks ago, we received an act of the Sangguniang Panlungsod saying that 3 barangays of the original 10 barangays will be included in District 1, and the other 7 barangays will be included in District 2 to constitute the new district for purposes of electing the Sangguniang Panlungsod. But there is still a problem. The problem actually is, where are they going to vote for? Are they going to vote for members of the Congress? So the Sangguniang Panlungsod does not have the power to do that. Only Congress can do that.
So wala pa pong desisyon?
But here comes Congress the other day.
Okay.
We reported on that too.
Pinag-aawayan ni Senator Alan at ni Senator Migs.
We reported that too.
And
they issued a resolution.
There was this concurrent resolution of Congress saying that whatever was done by the Sangguniang Panlungsod, which is 3 and 7, will have to be the same thing when it comes to the congressional seat and district. And so we issued a resolution the other day, and we will be issuing a resolution tomorrow, and this is an advance notice to everyone, that we will allow the 3 barangays of the then Makati, now Taguig, to vote for the 1st district, and the 7 barangays for the 7th district, for the members of Congress, so that they will not be disenfranchised. Our own purpose here is there should be nobody that will be disenfranchised in our country.
Pero wala pong bagong distritong manilikha.
Wala po. If you are going to create a new district, there should be a law for the creation of this new district.
So it just follows the ordinance, right?
Yes,
District 1, 3 barangays. District 2, 7 barangays.
So there needs to be a petition that will be filed in Congress for that to happen? Is that
no,
correct?
the Comelec will be issuing tomorrow.
So that's final.
That's final.
Okay.
Until somebody will go to the Supreme Court.
This is voted on by the EMBO, correct?
By the EMBO.
Okay, so it's going to be final.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, funny enough, because we were just talking to Mayor Abibina on Friday, and she was upset nga that it's taken this long to decide on it because we're literally on the eve of the filing of COCs, and she was wondering bakit inantay hanggang ngayon, right? It should have been resolved like much earlier in the year.
Because the Comelec has no power to do that. Only Congress can do that. And of course, we will not do anything if there is no act of Congress. In this case, the concurrent resolution. That's the sense of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And so, yun yung naging reason namin why we acted. But just providing that the 3 will belong to the 1st district and the 7, that's unconstitutional on the part of the Commission. Only Congress can do that.
You have not sat on this?
No, of course not. Okay. That's not within our power and jurisdiction. In fact, as early as February of 2024, we said we are awaiting for the law and we are waiting for the act of Sanggunian so that we can legally create and add as to the members of the Sangguniang Panlusod.
No more substitutions this year, Chair?
Definitely. Even if there is no law, lakas loob namin ginawa, the Comelec will not allow any more withdrawal with substitution. You have to lay your cards on the table. You decided to run for public office, and yet you will be you will like the people to second guess. So once you file your candidacy from October 1 to 8, after October 8, if you want to withdraw your candidacy, no problem with us. We will accept your withdrawal, but we will no longer accept any substitution in case of withdrawal, except in case of death
or disqualification. Ano yung grounds po for disqualification?
Disqualification based on Section 68 ng Omnibus Election Code, such as, for example, green card holder, violation of the code, like election offense cases, or yung lack of, or yung mga tinatawag nila na fugitive from justice.
So, for instance, Alice Guo can file COC, but then if the decision by the ombudsman comes,
there was already a decision from the Ombudsman. I was informed already, and we have to read the decision of the Ombudsman because it would appear that there was this perpetual disqualification to hold public office.
Chair naman, don't leave us hanging.
Yeah, but I was only informed this morning when the members of the media had been interviewing me, and I was informed that there was already a decision by the Office of the Ombudsman.
So perpetually disqualified?
According to and so we will have to read the decision. We will have to find out if indeed there was this qualified to hold public office, because this means a lot. This would change practically everything.
Let's read the decision now.
Yeah.
Pwede ba?
I know already, but,
Mag-break na tayo.
It's up to our researchers to research on the final disposition
Chair
of the Office
Garcia
of the
naman,
Ombudsman.
you can break it with us. We're running out of time, but I needed to ask you about something else. Former Comelec Chair Andy Bautista, of course, he's been indicted in the U.S. on by the federal jury on bribery charges. Do we know what's going on there?
Yes, ma'am. We were fully apprised by the U.S. DOJ every now and then. We are in constant communication with the Philippine DOJ, because the Philippine DOJ is properly coordinating with the U.S. DOJ. There is this mutual legal assistance treaty between the Philippines and the United States. The U.S. invoked that treaty so that the Philippine DOJ requested us for certain documents and confirmation of certain facts which are necessary for purposes of the filing of the proper case in court. That's the only participation that the Comelec. When the investigators and the lawyers from the US DOJ requested for certain directors from our office to be interviewed, to be examined and investigated. So we fully participated. We provided these people so that they can talk to our people.
Do we know where he is?
We know, but it's not. We are not at liberty to disclose because, of course, the U.S. will always invoke the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty.
Go ahead.
Chair, alam po natin na hinihigpitan natin ang social media AI use in the upcoming elections. We talked about it a lot, but I wanted to know, because the main dilemma here is how do you find the source? I mean, if there will be contentious posts, troll farm movements, paano po natin malalaman yun? And how do we hold these people accountable? Because uso yung mga troll farms, alam natin yan, ngayon pa lang, ang dami na. But to be able to trace it to a certain candidate, that's a different challenge altogether.
Truly, this is the first time that the Comelec enacted a guidelines for purposes of regulating social media, regulating AI, the artificial intelligence, deepfakes, softfakes, and such other kinds of fakes in social media. We need to attempt such kind of initiative simply because we honestly believe by 2025 and then the next elections, it will now be campaigning through social media, and so we are attempting to regulate at least social media. We have to understand that there is no social media regulation law in the Philippines. Even in the United States, they are attempting to pass social media regulation, but they fail to do that because there's always this issue of violation of the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. And that is the same thing also in the Philippines. But we honestly believe that when you file your candidacy, that's not an absolute right, it's a privilege. And that being the case, then you should be governed by the rules of...
May limit po ba ang promotion on social media?
Wala naman kaming binibigay na limit, but what we are saying is, if the post is not included or is not in the social media account of the candidate, of the political party, or the campaign staff, which is properly recorded to us, then we can easily ask And we're going to enter into a MOA, and at the same time, we're going to, that's included in our guidelines, we're going to talk to the platform to immediately remove such posts. Kasi ngayon, if there is no such exercise of power from the Comelec, and you request for the tanggalin yung post, it will take months. Eh, nasira ka na, nagamit na yung deepfakes, etc. So what we are trying to do is regulate, because we are regulating TV, radio, newspapers. We are saying 120 minutes, 90 minutes, you have to submit the contracts entered into by personalities, candidates, and then the expenditure we are properly monitoring. But how? Why
Pero yung
is it
problema
that,
po, Chair, is yung pag sinabi mong fake news, I mean, first of all, you have to prove.
And you have to fact check.
You have to fact check. Pero yung iba kasi may mga innuendo lang eh. Sabihin, you're gonna splice the video.
I think that's gonna be harder
to. You're gonna put, music.
It's like the guacamole game.
We have to understand also. Ganyan din naman yung argument sa regular nating campaigning. I'm not the one who posted that campaign material.
That's true.
Di naman ako yan eh, kalabang ko yan. Kung ganun lagi, lagi silang ligtas. What we did in the past, especially during the barangay and SK election, we said, okay, but we will just presume that these are your campaign materials, remove. Cause the removal. Yun lang naman eh. So, kasi kung sasabihin lagi nila that it's not their post, it's not their, then we cannot
They're
regulate,
washing their hands off it. Sorry, Chair Garcia, we've run out of time, but I just need to ask this one last question, circling back to the case with former Chair Andy Bautista. Di ba nag-appeal po yung Smartmatic? Has there been a decision on that? Are they appealing against the ban?
Against the disqualification. It's still pending before the Supreme Court, and therefore we are proceeding with our preparation because we did not receive any restraining order from the Supreme Court. Lucky for us, no TRO.
For now, they're still disqualified.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
We're going to have to leave that there for tonight. So sorry, we've run out of time, but there's so much more to talk about. Thank you so much for joining us on The Big Story tonight, Comelec Chair, Attorney George Garcia. Another close encounter between Philippine and Chinese ships out in the West Philippine Sea. The National Maritime Council says it's worried about China's rapid expansion activity. Gio Robles has that story.
In the middle of a maritime patrol in the West Philippine Sea near Pag-asa Island in Palawan, 4 vessels of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources were tailed by Chinese ships. 14 Chinese vessels intercepted and chased our ships away. A Chinese helicopter also moved close to the area. There were no stopping China's maritime forces from harassing our assets. Even Bifar's plane, which was patrolling the Hasa-Hasa or Half Moon Shoal, was laser pointed at by a missile boat of the Chinese Navy. Speaking to the media, the National Maritime Council or NMC condemned these latest acts of aggression.
Siyempre laser yun. Pag natapat yun sa mata ng ating piloto, it will cause temporary blindness. Wala silang karapatang maghabol, wala silang karapatang intimidate yung mga civilian boats na nandun. So yung ginagawa nila doon ay illegal.
Authorities are also worried that the Chinese assets are inching closer to our exclusive economic zone or EEZ. Take a look at this aerial footage taken by Bifar as China Coast Guard and Chinese Navy have been stationed for 2 days near mainland Palawan. For the NMC, this isn't mere navigation or innocent passage.
Unang-una, yung presensya nila doon ay illegal na. No? That maritime area is within the exclusive economic zone of our country.
Analysts say one of the biggest threats in the West Philippine Sea is China's rapid expansion of the features it occupies. From afar, huge structures like buildings, runways, and ships can be seen at Mischief Reef or Panganiban Reef, built by China inside our EEZ. The military and BIFAR says they are beefing up their maritime patrols in an effort to counter China's activities. For News 5, Gio Robles, we are One News.
Meanwhile, residents in several parts of northern Luzon have been battered with heavy rains and strong winds due to Typhoon Julian. The typhoon is now moving away from Batanes towards the northwestern boundary of the Philippine Area of Responsibility. At 4 p.m., Julian was last spotted 95 kilometers west-southwest of Itbayat, Batanes. It has winds reaching up to 175 kilometers per hour with gusts of up to 240 kilometers per hour. The storm is moving west-northwest at a speed of 15 kilometers per hour. For tropical cyclone wind signals, Batanes is still under signal number 4. The northern and western portions of Babuyan Islands under signal number 3 and signal number 2 remains up in mainland Cagayan. The rest of Babuyan Islands, Apayao, Abra, Kalinga, Ilocos Norte, and the northern and central portions of Ilocos Sur. While the remaining portions of Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, Ifugao, Mountain Province, as well as Benguet, Isabela, Nueva Vizcaya, Quirino, and the northern and central portions of Aurora are still under signal number 1. Pag-asa says Typhoon Julian could still become a super typhoon this evening. The storm will make landfall over southern Taiwan on Wednesday.
And before we go, Toyota Motor Philippines has successfully finished another race weekend for the 10th season of its motorsports program, the Toyota Gazoo Racing Philippines. The second round of the TGR Philippine Cup saw new drivers joining the grid alongside the introduction of new regulations regarding standard tires for the championship. No less than Toyota Motor Philippines President Masando Hashimoto participated in the novice class. He was joined by Jose Altoveros and other graduates of the Autocross Challenge.
It's nice to be back on track, and I really thank Toyota for giving me the opportunity to race with them again. But this time, we're on track at the circuit.
And as it was in the first round, all classes raced at the Clark International Speedway for 2 sprint races and a 1-hour 30-minute endurance race. The top performers recognized were Russell Reyes in the novice class, Bong Garbes in the promotional class, Cody Nang in the sporting class, and Inigo Anton in the super sporting class. Additional awards went to Mike Santos, who received the Adrenaline Driver Award.
With the tires that we have, the GT Radial SX2 giving me the high performance grip for me to be able to maneuver in all corners, and of course to get the top performance of the engine with the Petron XES.
And aside from the races, the TGR also featured driving exhibitions and a special live stage. Andy T., Assistant Vice President of Marketing Services Department of Toyota Motor Philippines, said fans can expect even more intense races in the next leg of the event, which will be held once more at the Clark International Speedway on November 9.
So you can expect even more thrilling action from our racers. To stay updated on current and future events related to Toyota Gazoo Racing, you may follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube at TGR Philippines, or you may visit our website at toyota.com.ph/TGR Philippines.
Well, what do you know? It is the last day of September. September 30. Tomorrow's October 1.
Wow. September went by in 5 minutes.
Oo nga.
Parang kakastart
It
pa
was
lang.
quick, yeah.
Maraming gigising bukas. Kasi waking up
file.
when September ends.
Okay.
Goodness. That is our cue to end the show once you start pulling out the bad jokes.
All right, that's the show for us tonight.
Tomorrow is the first day of filing of COCs until October 8. So abangan po natin yan. In the meantime, we are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.